I see Debbie responded to another first timer. So a lot of first timers. Looking forward to passing on some information. We have two great hosts with us today, so I think we can go ahead and get started. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Bryce. I'm on the customer success team here at Luma. Like I said a few minutes ago, today's topic, of course, as you can see with these questions, is Bedrock. We're really excited to share more information on kind of the Bedrock initiative and the work that our data team and our greater team has been doing in order to compile some best practices, as well as some of our data that we've gone through here. So with that being said, if we can move on to the next slide here, we can do some intros.
Hi, everybody. It is so great to see so many people joining us today during office hours. Today, we'll be talking about Bedrock, of course, as Bryce has already said, and we will specifically be talking about how you can use Bedrock to optimize your practice, your organization for patient success. So my name is Ashley Gordon.
Really quick, Ashley, I don't think the slides are changing, at least on my side.
You're correct.
There we go.
Well, we definitely want everyone to see our beautiful title slide. So here it is. Thank you very much, Lauren, for letting me know. So we'll be talking about Bedrock. My name is Ashley. I'm the senior technical writer here at Luma Health.
And I'm Lauren. I am the data science and analytics lead. So just to get started on our agenda today, pretty simple, straightforward. We're going to start with what is Bedrock? How did it come to be? We'll walk a little bit through the process of how we did it. And then finally, I will pass the slides back to Ashley so she can tell you about how you can use it to its fullest. So in a nutshell, Bedrock can be summed up as our best practices and recommendations backed by data science. And it all started when we realized we have a growing community of care providers with different specialties, patient bases, structures, but all of them have the common goal of delivering quality care to their patients. And over at Luma, we've come a really long way in how we collect data and track patient stats. And as we get new users, and even as veteran users get more familiar with the product, they get adventurous with the different features that we have. A question that has always come up is, what is the best way to go about using Luma? So what started as a really isolated investigation from the data team into just one feature turned into a full-blown company-wide collaboration to take all of the things that we've learned and developed and broken and redeveloped over the years to create a wealth of resources for the community so that both you and your patients can fully benefit from what Luma has to offer, and as well as from the knowledge and insights that the overall Luma community has gained over time as well. So I'll now walk through the process of how we arrived to our Bedrock findings. I will not get too technical because if I do, we will be here for a very, very long time. But I'm more than happy to answer any of your technical questions at the end of the session. So we have a small but scrappy team of data scientists dedicated to mining our data to find any patterns and relationships that we have between product settings and user demographics to our maximize user outcomes of choice. And as many of you know who have worked with data before, any good data job starts with the cleaning and the processing. So we're sitting on top of several rows, several million rows of product data, user data, demographic data. And we had to transform and code it so that we can address whatever our outcomes of interest are. And this cleaning process is really about half the battle, maybe a little bit more, because depending on what we're looking at, with the EHRs. But how we transform it depends on what kind of modeling we use. So this next phase is really the fun part for us. It was almost like an opportunity for us to have our own playground to test out our favorite data processing methods, using anything between really simple correlations from regression models or predictive features from advanced ML techniques. I will not list all of the things that we use, but there is a really good chance that if you name it, we tried it. And this is all for the sake of building accuracy and confidence in the patterns that we were seeing to make sure that we were recommending the right thing to our customers. And this takes us to the last step, which was to assess our results for true to life applicability. We have all our results now. We need to make sure that it actually does reflect behavior that's happening in the product, that it actually makes sense. So yeah, just synthesizing these final findings into actionable items that actually translate to what you would be doing in the product. And techniques aside, there were so many different directions that we could have taken with our investigation and our outcomes. For example, with the topic of actionable reminders alone, do we focus on maximizing engagement rate, response rate, confirmation rate, delivery, or some combination of any and all of the above, et cetera. And this is where we really needed to rely on the other teams at Luma for guidance. Knowing what kind of patterns and factors to look for was largely thanks to our implementation and product teams. These are the experts that are getting involved with the product every single day. They are sitting down in front of the customer to talk about their needs. They're probably the folks at Luma that you are among the most familiar with. And from our massive pile of findings, some of which made more sense than others, we were able to distill down our recommendations to their simplest, clearest form, now presented as documents in the Help Center, largely thanks to our very talented technical writer, Ashley, who I will now pass the baton back to.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Before we talk about the Help Center, we want to take a moment and do a little poll. So I believe one of our wonderful folks that are co-hosting with us will get that poll up, but we want to know if you've read any Bedrock content yet. We had a few people at the beginning of today's meeting, today's session, mention in the chat this is their first time hearing about Bedrock. One person mentioned that they briefly checked it out in the Help Center, which is very exciting. So if you've read any Bedrock content, let us know, and take a moment, go ahead and choose your option in the poll, but also feel free to drop any thoughts in the chat. What did you look at? What did you think was interesting? What do you want to know more about? Let us know. We'll take a few minutes.
And also just wanted to note, if you do have any questions, we will have a Q&A session towards the end. So feel free to jot those questions down, and then you can pop them into chat once we get to the Q&A session.
I see in the chat, Guadalupe says that they have been checking out Bedrock recalls. Very exciting. I think recall functionality is one of the coolest pieces of functionality that we have, because I don't know about anybody else on this call, but trying to remember to schedule my yearly, not easy. All right, we have another person saying waitlist and online scheduling. Again, really cool features, right? The ability to get in sooner. I don't know about everybody on this call, but I had an appointment rescheduled at the end of the year, and waitlist functionality was really helpful in making sure that I was able to get a sooner appointment. We'll give it a couple more moments in case anybody hasn't responded to the poll that would like to. All right, and are we able to share the results with everybody? It looks like we are almost split right down the middle. We've got, of 14 respondents, 6 people who have looked at Bedrock content in the Help Center, which is very exciting to me because I wrote it. And we have 8 people who will be looking at it soon because they haven't had the pleasure of doing so yet. So thank you, Jeremy and Bryce, who are on the call helping us today, for getting that poll out. And we'll move on to talk about documentation. So before we talk about the actual content of Bedrock in the Help Center, I always like to take the opportunity to remind everybody you can easily jump directly into Luma's Help Center right from your Luma account. And you can do this just by clicking the question mark button in the upper right corner of your screen. That's in the toolbar. So that toolbar is always visible no matter where you are in Luma. When you do that, you'll jump into the Help Center. So in the Help Center, there are two places from the home screen where you can easily jump to Luma Bedrock content. The first, of course, definitely draws your eye. It is our giant tile that says Luma Bedrock. You can click there. You can also click on the quick button at the top of the screen, which is the Luma Bedrock quick button that's highlighted in red. And that toolbar up there will always appear no matter where you are in the Help Center. So you can always jump into Bedrock content whenever you need to. So when you click on either of these options, you're going to jump into this folder. And this is the Bedrock Best Practices folder. And there are a lot more articles in there than you can see right now, but that's because the folder is very vertical and computer screens are very horizontal. So at the top of the folder, you'll always see this Getting Started with Bedrock article. And this is our high level content, just like you've seen throughout the Help Center for a lot of other Luma features. We often have these Getting Started articles as a way to have an introduction into the feature when you want that high level content. And then of course, we've got 11 different articles for 11 different features that you can learn about and see what our best practices are, from broadcast to intake forms, referrals, recalls, patient scheduling plus. We have an article for all of the best practices for all of those features. When you open up an article, you're going to see something that's a little different depending on each article, but generally you will always see a table of contents that will probably look almost exactly like this. The very first item in that table of contents is going to be a summary of what the feature is, just in case you need it. You're sharing this with somebody who's a bit higher up in the organization who isn't in Luma day to day and just needs a little more detail. Then we have the About the Data section. And I love the About the Data section because it details all the hard work that everybody on our data team did. It tells you how many data points we looked at, how many, over how much time. So maybe it was 1 million data points looked at over a number of weeks, for example, and it gives you all of those technical details that you might need or want to share regarding where these recommendations are coming from. The What the Data Says section is a breakdown of the information that we've gleaned from all of those data points that our data team has been looking at and processing. So that's where you're going to see statements about, we see patients do this at this time of day, they are more likely to respond, they're more likely to schedule, more likely to not respond. All of those insights are listed in the What the Data Says section. And then the last section is the Best Practices and Configuration Recommendations section. And this is really the crux of Bedrock. This is where you're going to see actionable pieces of information and our recommendations for how you can modify your account so that you can be using best practices. So the best practices section, you won't always see it formatted like this because, as I said, every article is a little bit different, but we have many articles where we are able to give you exact recommendations for particular settings. And in those cases, you'll see a table like this. We have the setting listed in the first column. We have our recommendation for how you should configure that setting in the second column. And then the final column, we give a little bit more background, a summary of why we're telling you to configure it this way or that way. Now, one of my favorite things in these tables is going to be these orange setting names. And the reason that they're orange, if you aren't super familiar with the Help Center, anytime that something is highlighted in orange, it's a hyperlink and it's clickable. So you can click on these settings and jump directly into an article that tells you how to step-by-step configure that setting. So now that we've gone through and had a chance to talk about Bedrock documentation, I want to know what features are you most interested in exploring first. So we're going to get another poll up here, and I believe that you're able to select any option that speaks to you. So it doesn't have to be one option. Let us know, maybe 2 or 3 of your top choices. What are you really eager to learn more about for best practices? We already have some results coming in. I'm seeing an early, I can't think of the word I want here. Early winner. I mean, all these articles are winners, right? But waitlist has the most votes right now. Patient scheduling plus and recalls are in a close second. So keep on answering these polls, voting for the areas that you are the most interested in learning about, now that we have told you a bit more about Bedrock and how it works.
And this really helps us determine where the data team should be focusing most of our effort moving forward as well. So super, super valuable information to us as well.
We'll give it another moment or two. All right. And if we're able to share those results, there's a resounding majority here for waitlist, Lauren. And waitlist has a lot of love already that's been given to it by the data team. I also see a chat message here about wanting to see some more in-depth information on custom actions. So that's an interesting one that we can also dive into. Yeah, patient scheduling plus recalls. These are close seconds to waitlist, and then reminders and rescheduling. So this is great. Thank you so much, Bryce and Jeremy. If we're sharing and we're able to stop sharing those results so that we can continue, we will move on to the last part of our presentation.
Yeah, so Bedrock is most definitely not going to be a one and done project for us. I think a lot of the impact would really be lost if we were to just, find all these one time and then write docs and then never look at it again. But so actually our data team will continue to pull results from time to time to review our recommendations and update them as needed. Currently, we intend to do this about quarterly, and we'll see how that goes. But as changes are made available, we figure out that certain recommendations are really, really working for some customers, some maybe not as much, just evaluating and tuning here and there. We'll work with documentation to then get all the content updated in the help center, and then work with your customer success manager to then ensure that any updated recommendations are pushed out into the Luma community. So that you have all of the most updated information as quickly as possible. You're muted, Ashley.
I was muted. We are already starting to see Luma community members implementing changes from these Bedrock insights that they are reviewing in the Help Center. They're finding the information useful, insightful, and we are excited to see the improved experiences that this leads to for both staff and patients. That's the presentation that we have for you today. So we'd like to open it up now to any questions that you have for me or Lauren about Bedrock. You can put those, I believe, in the chat. We also have a Q&A functionality, and we'll be monitoring both of those spaces for the questions that you'll be submitting. So go ahead, take a moment now and let us know what your questions are. Lauren, while we're waiting for some questions to trickle in here, I know that you said there are a lot of models that the data team used in order to get a lot of insights. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technical aspect of those models?
Dangerous question, but yeah, absolutely. Well, as I said, we started really working from the ground up. I think a lot of people who have worked with data, and especially in like the medical field or the health field, obviously very familiar with different regression models. So like starting really simple with something linear, nothing too crazy, moving on to logistic regression. And slowly but surely, our team worked our way up all the way to, I actually think we used a deep learning neural network at some point, which is really excessive for what we're trying to use, but hey, we had fun and it corroborated our results. So yeah, everything in between the spectrum, we've used it. I think we spent a lot of time, especially tuning really standard machine learning algorithms that are pretty commonly used on most data teams nowadays. Maybe you've heard of them. We've used a lot of k-nearest neighbors, a lot of random forest regressions. I'm suddenly forgetting all of the names of everything that we've used. Naive Bayes regression, XGBoost, a lot of algorithms.
Yeah, and then Ashley, I see your question there in the chat. So yeah, please, if you have any questions about either, you know, utilizing some of these best practices in your account, or if you want to bounce some ideas off of your customer success managers, please feel free to reach out directly either to your customer success manager. If you have any more technical questions that you feel also relate to the materials that you're reading in the Help Center on Bedrock, you can always reach out to our technical support team. And if need be, they can also steer those questions towards your customer success managers there. But yeah, any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'd be interested to hear. I know kind of the areas of interest were waitlist, PS Plus, and recalls, but specifically if you have any questions in those areas that apply to Bedrock, or if you can even peek into the Help Center and check out some of that data, if you have any questions on that, this team is here to help. And these are the people writing and creating this data. So these are the ones that are best to answer those questions for you.
And while we're here, if you have any questions about Help Center, accessing it, using it, questions about content, feel free to drop them in the chat.
And then also a little plug, we actually did an office hours session back in October on how to navigate the Help Center. So if you're feeling maybe a little unsure on how to find the best information in the Help Center or best find any Bedrock info, please go check out that office hours session. That was with Ashley as well. So very insightful. All right, well, it looks like there were no questions. Lauren and Ashley must have crushed it. So if you haven't joined us before for office hours, should have said this at the beginning, but we do these monthly. Just to get more information to you as customers, we want to open this line and stream of communication to be able to share any new updates. And even as you can see, some back to basics sort of deep dives on certain products. So for February, we'll be jumping into referrals. We'll be working with our product trainer, Dawn, who will be helping us with this presentation. So we really hope that you can make it. We love to see you all here. This session, as well as the rest of our office hour sessions, are recorded. So please feel free to share with any staff that may not have been able to make it today. Really awesome to be able to socialize this internally with your own folks so that everyone's aware of what's going on with Luma. And of course, thank you so much to Ashley and Lauren. Really appreciate you putting together a great presentation on Bedrock. I'm excited to see our customers leverage this data and, you know, patient success carry on. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.